Hello, everybody. We're here for another episode of Martial Praxis. This time I'm joined by Lee Masters, who's both a doctor of osteopathy and also a representative of Tenjin Shinyo Ryu. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Okay, good. Um, and for those who don't know, right, this is one of the key precursors to modern judo, right? This is one of the styles that Jigoro Kano studied extensively and very much influenced his synthesis of judo. So really happy to have you here. Very excited to pick your brain on a number of things. Thanks again for doing this.
Oh, thank you, and I'm quite excited about this. It's good. I can't wait for the questions.
So I first like heard about you. You were advertising some online seminars on Facebook, and it was the first one I saw was on the shimewaza, the choking techniques. And
Mhm.
it's funny. So about 5 or 7 years ago, I saw this article on this. They have this dinky little website called BJJ Eastern Europe. I don't know why it's called that because it goes all over the world, but they basically give you these like it's like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tabloid. And they had this little article that said, everything you know about chokes is wrong. It has nothing to do with occlusion. It's all about this. There's this pressure sensor in your neck, and if you press on it, then people go out. And I was like, huh, that makes a lot of sense because it's too fast to be occlusion. And then I watched a couple of Danaher videos and he got talking about double occlusion and I forgot all about it. And, it kind of just went away and I never heard about it again. And I thought maybe it is occlusion. I don't know. And then I saw your presentation. I said, and I was listening to it and you started to explain exactly how this stuff works. And I was like, oh my God, this is really, it really is a pressure thing. So that was kind of my introduction to your work. And what I found so interesting is that there's both like a traditional basis for some of the medical understanding within this style, but then also at the same time, you have this outside training as a doctor. Um, could you talk just a little bit about how that works for you, like as a practitioner of both medicine and then also martial arts, like how that comes together, in your personal practice?
Okay, so it works very well actually. So both my father also is an osteopath, and also my brother is an osteopath as well, and we all teach Tenjin Shinyo Ryu. Um, it works immensely well in the fact that when we have people that come in with various ailments, sports injuries, different things like that. We obviously, if you, I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger said in Terminator, if you know how to kill, you know how to heal.
Yes.
And that goes along. You know, you mentioned Kano Sensei with Tenjin Shinoru, and his first teacher was Fukuda Hachinosuke. And Fukuda Sensei was actually a bone setter.
Hmm.
So a lot of the jiu-jitsu sensei during that period of time, late Edo period, which is late 18 up to 1868, were actual bone setters. And so what so the story goes is that Kano Sensei became a student of his, and the bone setters are a little bit different to osteopathy in that the fact that they didn't use couches like we do to lay
Uh,
on. They just used the floor like shiatsu.
yes, yes, yes.
So what would happen, and actually this used to happen with me and my father, but with Kano Sensei, he'd be there looking at the treatment, and if they didn't have any patients, then they would then do some jujitsu.
Yes.
And we used to do the same, my father and I. You know, we'd have in between patients. I would be next door to him, and he'd go, Lee, just here a minute. So it would
Yeah.
either be, yeah, it'd either be like a trying an osteopathic technique, or verbalizing some of his theories, or going through some jujitsu techniques, and maybe looking in the Ura, or the deeper level of the technique. the one that's not seen, as they say.
Can you explain that? Because I think people who don't have any experience in Koryu traditions just don't understand that format of there kind of being like a public face to the technique, and then there being like this like aura aspect.
Yeah. So what you see in most demonstrations is the omote, the outer part of the shell, or the part that you can see. The ura part is the deeper and another meaning to it, and that can be related to Kuden teachings. So
Yes.
Kuden teachings are Kuden literally means oral transmission, and this has been the case with most Koru systems, even within like the Koru karate systems of Okinawa.
Yeah. Even
Uh,
Daito Ryu follows some of these, even though it's a bit more modern.
yeah, but it's still under the Koru umbrella, right?
Yes. Well, I mean,
So
I think it follows the main. I think it's not old enough to be Koryu, but it has the Menkyo Kaiden system instead of the Dan ranking.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
I'm not sure either. I
put it this way. So Kondo Sensei of Daitoru is in
Mhm.
the Nihon Kobudo Shinkokai. So
Gotcha,
that's a Koru umbrella association in Japan.
gotcha.
So
Makes sense.
the actual origins and dates, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think I'm just thinking from the academic standpoint that
Hmm.
realistically Takeda put it together, and that, like obviously there's like within the lineage there's claims that things are a lot older, but from what's visible, it's like he realistically probably pieced this together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So
Um, yeah,
so regarding my daily routine, I very much put the practice, as you probably gathered from the webinar, of osteopathy into martial arts, and martial arts
yeah.
into osteopathy. So when I'm teaching people, or not teaching people, when I'm treating people, sorry, I'll take a deeper stance, or I'll work stance work. So at the end of the day, I'm not tired because I'm moving the whole body. So it's all about body
Mm.
mechanics and dynamics.
That makes a lot of sense. I actually had somebody who was doing body work on me for a while who was, I think it was a Wado-Ryu karate practitioner. And he, this guy, he told me this could be completely fabricated, that he was contacted by the Bush administration to be a part of their like torture, that they wanted to use the pressure from the massage that he was doing as a way to torture people. And I mean, this guy like would give you like a 7 to 8 out of 10. I mean, you'd be absolute I'd be on the table and be absolutely sure that he was going to just break my body, and then I'd get up and be like, okay, yeah, the thing feels better. But he was only able to do that, I think, because of the martial arts training that he had
Mhm.
solid structure from the ground, like there's a little bit of like I don't know whether you want to call it internal or external, but there's really good mechanical positioning there that allows him to deliver a lot more force than a regular person could.
Absolutely, and that will then go back to the lever system of the body. So whether you're putting a long lever in, which can, if you're doing it to hurt people, can be quite painful and also very dangerous. To then shorter lever, which we use both when we manipulate the spine, or any of the body actually. So yeah, the longer lever would probably work when it comes down to torture.
I was like, that's a really out there story. He told me that when Obama came in that he shut it down and that the whole thing was off the table. I'm like, this is really out there.
It could be true. It could be true. I
Listen,
don't
the
know.
pressure, I would have told him things.
Well, there's a particular spot behind the earlobe that no
Mm,
one likes, and it's called doko in Japanese. And I think it's triple warmer 17 in the acupuncture field,
hmm.
and no one likes that.
Yeah.
And we use it quite early in the system of Tenjin Shinyo Ryu. So it's a very much a break into the system and breaking the student. Like if they can resist that, then yeah, I'm backing off.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about Tenjin Shinyo Ryu, like as a system, what are the main components, sort of what's its personality like? I mean, I guess every system sort of has its own character, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Well, firstly, thankfully, the personality is not the same as mine. So otherwise, that would be a bad thing.
It's
Um,
more charismatic than I am, I'll tell you that.
um, I so Tenjin Shinryu comes from two systems. So Yoshinryu is the first system, which was formed. Some say 1500s, some say 1600s. 1600s is more the timing. Um, then, and that consisted of 303 techniques. Then in the late 1700s, Shinno Shindaru was brought into play, and that was the founder of that actually learnt Yoshinryu, but he
Mhm.
was also a policeman for the Osaka castle. So he compressed down to 68.
Ah,
And those 68 techniques are preserved in Tenjin Shinyo. So Izo who was the founder of Tenjin Shinryu, he learnt to a high level. So um, I don't think they didn't really mention whether he was Menko Kaiden of both systems, but sort of learnt the higher level, the Okuden, which is the deeper secrets, if you like. And he had mastered both systems. Now, in Koryu, um, what they one of the sort of laws is that if you add or change the techniques, then you have to change the name.
yes.
So, as similar to like, for example, Washiba Sensei, who changed Daito Ru to Aikido,
Yes, yes.
um, and and he basically put in two different levels of techniques dealing with both defense and attack. Um, that's one of the main differences actually regarding Gendai and Koryu. So I would say that Koryu is on similar lines to today's combatives. That
Yeah.
you don't wait for the attack, you do a preemptive if you need to, blah blah blah.
Like there are
Um,
tactics for attacking someone and removing somebody who you've already identified as an enemy and
as a
initiating the
threat,
encounter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's something you don't
absolutely.
see in like Budo. Like,
No.
oh, you're going to defend yourself. This is just for self-protection, da da da. No, like if I want to assassinate that guy over here, and he notices me, this is how to.
Yeah. And also, there's techniques where you've been given the nod by the superior to take the person out. So you might be sitting like I'm sitting now next to another person. They give you a little head
Cue.
shake and then you then go for it. Whether it's to arrest the person because you might be sitting alongside them. So we
Oh.
have arresting
Do you have
techniques.
Hojo Jutsu techniques?
Yeah,
Oh, very
absolutely.
cool. That's fascinating.
Um, and also, not many, but they're in there. And also, just taking control of the person, taking control of the arm, for example,
Mhm.
so they don't reach for a weapon or something like that.
Yes.
And those sort of characteristics, as I say, are sort of not so much taught in modern Budo, but
Hmm.
more as in combatives with some of the guys that I've trained with. Um, and even to the point of where you may draw a weapon before anything's happened or place a weapon in your hand before anything's happened. This is one of the big, we call it Zenshin, and which is basically situational awareness.
Yeah.
It's the beginning mind, which a lot of people call it Zanshin. There's I think there's a lot of confusion with that. We have three different levels. So Zenshin, Zushin, and Zanshin. And they also, those three levels go within each level.
Mm. So there's sort of like a
Mate.
fractal structure to that.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself, actually. So, so the Zenshin predominantly is, as I say, is situational awareness, which is
Is
one
it
of my
preemptive?
webinars.
Is it
Yeah,
like a tense type of thing?
yeah, absolutely. So you're already given a scenario. So if we're doing Tai Chi, which is stand up,
Yes.
then we're at least 3 mats away. So as you're walking towards, you're observing that person, observing what they're wearing, way they're wearing, blah blah blah. Which of course, in today's society, if you're doing, you should be doing that outside regarding
Yes.
situational awareness, whether something's going wrong in that area, or if you're
Absolutely.
a local, if there's something that's changed.
Yeah.
So that's, and we use weapons as well.
You know, it's a
So
great way to do that training, right? Is like you have the two people walking towards each other. It gives you a chance to feel when the intent changes, right? Like it's very interesting. A big part of my like personal self-defense like training is I watch like closed circuit camera videos of people getting attacked, and I try to guess who's going to do it before I know by
mhm.
looking at their body language. And it's just very interesting because you see over time like there are just these even without the there's a personal element when you're in a space with someone, you know, like there's just some kind of communication that goes on, but just on the video you can see there's these visual cues and body language stuff that is just so obvious. Like it's like, oh yeah,
Well,
that guy,
norm
he's going like this and he's staring at that once, you know, you can see, oh, he's about to do something.
is
So
going to
that's,
do something.
I mean, that's
And
a
also,
really
it's the
cool.
walk of intent as well, right?
Yes.
So when you see these different videos, the walk, there's an intention behind it. They're not just walking. They'll be, if they're trying to walk nonchalant, like as if then they're normally looking around to see whether it's worth doing the attack. Where they're normally eyeing up the person. Um, you know, I don't know if you know the combatives instructor Kelly McCann,
I haven't
but
heard of him.
he,
No.
no,
No, I
okay,
haven't heard of him.
he's very good, and he says that criminality wants an easy day as well,
Yes.
and this is one of the things that Funakoshi Gichin wrote in his book, his life book, is that if you walk along like a victim, you will be a victim.
Yes.
The criminal will look at you and go, "Yeah, that looks an easy picking. I'll go for that."
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and
That's very
martial arts
true.
teaches you that posture, doesn't it? It teaches you to be upright, lead with the hara if you're in the Japanese martial arts. Um,
And I also think
some
that like that state, right? Like I think so the first one is called Zenshin, right?
mhm.
So I
Means
think that an attitude, right, a mental state is subtle, it's inside, but it often gets carried out into your posture and your movement. So if you're really in that state of being situationally aware, it actually is visible, right? People can see that
yeah,
you're observing the environment, that you're positioning yourself in a way that you can observe the environment, and those things tend to deselect you as a target for violence.
yeah, absolutely, and it drives me crazy over here in Sweden and also in the UK. But when people walk around with headphones and stuff, it drives me absolutely crazy.
On my street right here, you know, the middle schoolers all walk home from school. They're gonna start walking in about 30 minutes. And they're all on the street like this with their phone in front of their face. And like there's cars and there's like 30 kids and they're all like and none of them are looking and it's like I'm like, "Oh my God, like this is just so scary, you know." But it's funny because I don't think that non-martial artists like really think about that stuff, you know? If you're not a police officer or martial artist or somebody who's has some stake in this stuff, you're just like, "Why wouldn't I look at my phone? There's something interesting on there."
Exactly, and it's kind of worse. I think it's worse over here because they'll cross the road at the zebra crossing,
Yes.
but they won't look.
Yes,
because
yes,
it's
yes,
their
yes.
right to do that. You're like, I'm in a ton of metal here. That's
Yeah.
gonna kind of hurt if I'm not being aware,
Yeah.
you know. It, but yeah, drives me crazy.
So the next one you said was Zushin?
Zushin is when you're
Zushin.
aware within the technique. So, in other words, in kata, for example, it's boxed, it's formed. So, like, which what kata means,
Mhm.
or can mean. And Zushin is when the the the, the kata has changed. So, if you're doing randori, for example, you have might have an intent of doing some technique, and then you then flow into a different technique. That's the basic level of it anyway. There's higher levels of that, and
So
aimed
you're
at
performing, a technique that involves, let's say, like lifting the elbow up, and you recognize in the course of doing that that your opponent is fighting exactly in the direction that you're pushing. And rather than continuing to push, you're aware in that moment and you change the direction of the technique. Is that
absolutely.
okay?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
sort of the essence, and at least in my understanding of like jujitsu, like what makes it jujitsu, what makes it soft rather than being like hard, at least on the at the like the entry level to that,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And then the
So,
last, oh, go ahead, please.
so the last, no, I was going to say that. So that's the mindset. So it's again, it's being able to flow with the technique. So as I say, traditionally the techniques are in the kata form. So when we do the kata, we do A, B, and C, but we want to try and do A, B, and C, but have the ability to then reverse back to B again. And
Yes.
that's what it's about. It's about flexibility.
Uh,
So, which, jiu-jitsu, we in Tenjin Shinyo in Yoshimaru, Yoshimaru literally means the heart of the willow tree, and it's all
mhm.
about the flexibility of the willow tree. But that also means flexible of body and mind,
Yes.
and that's where people get it wrong a little bit because they don't think about the mind thing. A bit like
Yeah.
Kazushi.
I mean, one of the interesting things I discovered in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's something me and my coach have talked about a lot at length, is that, you can't be attached. So like if you're in a very good position, like a strong mount, and you're, going towards a Jujigatami arm lock, right? A lot of times the opponent will react strongly and change what's available, and it might lead to a triangle, to a sankaku, it might lead to something else. And if you're so attached to that Jujigatami or that particular variation of Jujigatami that you're going to lose everything, and you may be presented with a better opportunity that you're just going to forego.
Yeah, and I think the sort of Brazilian concept of the roll up where you will go if the person feels that you've got you into the position that you're going to tap out, and you tap
Yeah,
out rather than resisting.
yeah,
Um, and it's what was I going to say? It's kind of that's how it should be,
yeah,
but also attachment, of course, is one of the main no-nos in Buddhism,
yes,
right? So if you get
yeah,
attached to that particular technique, it will then bring you sadness. It will bring you despair
yeah.
because it won't work.
And it
And
hinders your awareness, right? Like you're not you get tunnel vision.
absolutely, that's
So,
I do feel that sometimes that can be a negative um, when it comes down to traditional martial arts, particularly those that do kata,
yeah,
um, because it is boxed.
yes,
And if it's like with the old Koryu Goju, for example, you would see the same kata done by three, four different people, and they'd be slightly different because of their stature and everything. And
yeah,
that can be the same with me. Some of the guys that train with me are not exactly young, and they get stiff in different areas, and it's not good. So I swap the technique, but the principle stays the same. So the kata
yes.
is a principle.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think And a lot of times people are so literal about their interpretation of the kata. And I think that's a really, really good point you make, that is our duty to preserve the exact physical movements of the kata or to preserve an accurate vehicle for the presentation of the principle. The only problem is when you start uh, deciding that you're the one that can do that, right? Like you can get yourself into trouble because you make a little mistake or something and then it all
Mhm.
goes to hell, right? It's a lot of
Yeah, exactly.
responsibility.
Yeah,
Scary.
exactly.
No, thank you.
I can feel it on my shoulders.
Yeah, I'm not going to change anything actually, now that I think about it.
The cat has only been in existence for 400 years. Don't worry about it. I think, again, it depends on the practitioner, on what they want to do.
Yeah.
So, I will openly say to my students, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a self-protection system? If so, then what I'll do is I'll show you the traditional kata and then put it in a more modern Goshin
Context.
method. Yeah. Others just want to come and train, as
Yeah.
you know, others just want the camaraderie.
Yeah.
They're never going to be, Menkyo Kaidans
They
or
just want to
anything
be
like
there.
that.
They're happy
They
to
just
be
want to, they're happy to get thrown.
there.
And why should I take that away from them?
So, one thing that it's funny because everybody always talks about the downsides of kata, right? And everyone talks about the upsides of combat sports. And that I think that's like quite established, right? And we all know about all that. But one of the things that I'd like to ask you, because this is a kata-based system, is what do you feel in your own practice? Like, what were the benefits of the kata? What does the kata offer? Because in my own experience, it offers a lot. So
Mhm.
I don't want to knock it as a training method, but I just want to hear your experience with it.
It's a good training method straight away. It maps out the vital areas, if you like. So whereas if you keep changing a technique, but going, oh, this pressure point here, and we do it from here, here, and here, um, you can get a little bit confused. Whereas, sorry about that. Whereas if you're doing the same kata, then it builds the proprioception of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So our first kata is we release them to a strike to the temple. Well, we do that sitting down or on our knees in Idori. Idori techniques are very good. Everyone says, "Oh, they're old and useless." Pretty sure that I've seen quite a few UFC fights where the fighters are on their knees. You know,
I mean, these positions are common, and also just because a technique is presented in a particular, like, kneeling, standing, whatever, doesn't mean that it might have crazy applications in another position.
Exactly, and also it builds up flexibility. It also builds up the mobility of the body and how to manipulate someone else. Um, if you go outside and you look at the sort of Igaku, which is the Eastern medicine study,
Hmm.
you're then activating and stretching different meridians, blah blah blah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, even if you go to today's where there's everyone's talking about the fascial
Fascia.
lines,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You're stretching the fascia, if
Yeah.
if that could be stretched. There's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
argument about that.
Yeah, like I think that some of the trouble here is that with the Eastern stuff, you have a subjective, like proprioceptively oriented system where people are saying, okay, I did this thing and I felt this thing along this line. And they don't particularly care what that line is. Like, is it fascia? Is it a nerve? Is it a meridian that's running magical chi energy? It doesn't really matter. We felt something there and then it had an effect. So I think that,
Yeah.
it's a struggle to map some of this stuff scientifically. Some of it's really easy, right? And then some of it's like, man, what is this phenomena? You
So this is
know?
also one of the reasons why within the Shimewaza webinar that I said about the four diaphragms,
Yes.
because it gets people thinking. Um, they are physically there are physical four diaphragms, so there's no argument with that, and it then makes, I think, it makes a lot more sense when you put people into different postures. And this is all connected via the meninges or the dura, if you like, and various fascial attachments as well. So,
Yes.
um,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
mean,
so that,
something like, so we have a technique in jujitsu, right? Like in judo, they have a kesagatame, right?
mhm,
And this is a common, it's not an occlusive or a, barometric pressure technique. It's actual asphyxiation by compressing the diaphragm. But part of what really makes it work is that you're pulling the fascia on the back line. And we have a variation in jiu-jitsu that, forgive my language, we call the sharp machine, where you reach back and
right.
you grab their legs and then you grab your own thighs and cross your own feet. So now you kind of
Mhm,
are wrapping them around you like a taco or a burrito or something. It increases the pressure on that back line, and it's even tighter than your typical Keisagatame. So the idea is like you have these locks that just because you can access that fascia and lock it and sort of stretch it, now you can seal off these cavities in the body and just prevent breathing.
And what you've got to think about, so with the back line, if you then go deeper to the normal fascia, you've then got the dura that
Yeah.
attaches from the occiput down to the second level of the sacrum. And as you're doing that sort of neck crank, you're then stretching that. You're also, by leaning into the abdomen, you're causing the diaphragm exactly. So, as I said, if one diaphragm contracts, the rest of them contract. And then if you're doing a neck cramp, which they're one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is within Tenjin Shinyo Ryu in the structure, we actually do techniques called Shiayura, which basically means to reverse the contest. There's higher, deeper levels to that,
It's a
but
counter essentially.
kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But it's also a mindset as well. So
Uh-huh.
Shiai can also mean death coming towards each other,
Yes.
and then you're going to reverse that. So you're taking that, uh, you're surviving their death grip, if you want to be Star
Like
Trek.
they're about to
Uh,
deliver the killing blow and you reverse the energy of the encounter. Is that the correct
Absolutely,
idea? Okay.
it's kind of, yeah.
I want to make sure I
And
have an idea of it. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's and within that we also have what they call Ratai Dori. Ratai Dori means it's a naked chest. So we have no gi.
Hmm.
Sounds familiar. So, but these were only, I think Izoma Tamon brought these into play in around the 18. Well, he named Tenjin Shinryu in 1830. So I suppose, within that time, the Shiai techniques were there.
Hmm.
So those non-gi reversal techniques, which also we do Hadaka Jimmy in that non-gi version.
Yeah,
That's
the rear
where
naked.
the yeah, but like this, not
Ah,
the try.
ah.
Not, so and that's where Kodokan Judo get it from.
Is with that technique when it's done in that fashion, is the goal to crush the trachea or break the mandible, or is it trying to get the barometric those barometers on the neck just like a traditional, just like
Depends
a
where your
common
forearm
shoulder?
is.
Okay.
Depends on where your forearm. It depends on where your forearm is, and also it depends on the level of force that
Hmm.
you want to. If you're talking in today's use of force continuum,
Yeah.
um,
You want to
then,
choke, you want to protect them, right? But I'm thinking,
but if you want to take them out, then it goes across the trachea,
yeah.
and then you know again what a lot of people don't realize is strangles can also be sort of strikes.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you get into that position and bang,
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
hit it with like that short power that, yeah.
with a combined kinetic energy that comes from you and to them being off balanced. So they're already having, once you apply
Yes.
Kazushi,
Yes.
sorry,
Yes.
once you apply a Kazushi, then you're then triggering
Yeah.
other other things that are trying to keep proprioception, right? So trying to
Yes.
keep your balance, which you're talking vagus nerve, you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah. No, this makes
the
perfect sense.
diaphragms.
And this is the unification of basically shimewaza and kyosho, like striking vital points, right? Because when
Yeah.
we see like you can see like Oyata has some really good videos of him doing like neck strikes, right? Like you'll
Mm-hmm.
see him striking the same point that we choke on and just putting people out. Um,
Small intestine, stomach nine, sorry. It's
and
it's the
so I think
carotid
like
sinus.
yes, yeah, exactly. That's it, exactly. So I think like what you're saying makes perfect sense. So the other thing interesting here is when I learned, I didn't get to learn it systematically, but my Tai Chi teacher was able to do some cavity press and some like dim mak style things. And one of the things he explained to me was that the points have to be open, that you can't strike these points if they're not open. And I think what you're saying about the kazushi is really important because that puts the nervous system in a place where it's not able to armor and protect these vital areas, and it opens them up to strangulation or the, vital striking, kyusho or atemi.
But it also, that's, yeah, absolutely. And it also depends on what you're trying to do, right? So a prime example to that is if you pull the head back like so, the
Hmm.
carotid arteries go posterior. So they're protected by the
Yeah.
sternocleidomastoids.
It slides behind the muscle.
So it's harder to get to. So when you see the pullback and the cut and when in knife attacks, really it should be a pullback in and then push down
Forward.
and cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
if you wanted to strike this carotid sinus spot, you'd actually be better off hitting them, say, in the stomach first to cause flexion reaction, and that would make sure that that point is exposed. So I get exactly what you're saying is that it's not as simple as like go like this and expose it and open it up. That doesn't always give you what you're looking for. You have to really know the ins and the outs of each point and the nuances of what's under there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can expose people and then go whack, and it will cause a lot of damage. It's not as controlled, but my father he says it's the physiological body reaction, as you say. So if you kick them in the testicles, they have a tendency of dropping down. At the
Yeah.
same time, you're going up, or if you push there, then a famous Kukshinkai fighter, John Blooming, who's
Hmm.
he
Yeah.
he that was one of his techniques was palm held to the head, kick him in the balls. His words, not mine. Um, and vice versa, depending
Yes.
on what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's actually basic physics as well.
Yeah.
If I'm doing that and your head's coming towards it, it's a
You
lot
get
easier
double
for
the
me.
power. Yeah.
Hence why all these small people have the control over bigger people.
Yes. Yeah, I have this little pamphlet. It's like a spiral bound book that came from it's like a 30-year-old self-defense thing, and it's called autokinematic and autostatic responses. And it's funny because I've always thought that these were like real terms, and I looked it up about a year ago, and it turned out they were completely made up. But they make so much sense where
Mm-hmm.
like one of them is basically I always use this example where I'm holding a basketball and I throw the basketball at your head and it hits you in the head and your head goes backwards, right? So that there's a physical impact, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
physics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then after your head goes back, in a second, your head's gonna come forward, you're gonna lean forward, you're gonna grab your face, and that's your nervous system's reaction to what's just happened. So you have these kinematic responses that are just physical, and then you have these like autonomic nervous systems responses, and that basically all fighting is built around these, right? Like, you want to stack these on top of each other to get, like as you said, to create dilemmas in order to get what you're looking for.
Well, we have that in the what's called the first true kata, which is Shinno Gurai. So it's a kneeling kata. We move in and then we scrape the eyes. So then that creates that opening for us to then go into the neck. And depending on what we're trying to achieve, whether we hit the trachea or whether we hit the carotid sinus, it really depends
Mm.
on how you do that strike. But yes, that's a prime example. And I use that particular kata as a good way of teaching in classic combatives.
Ah,
So we get up, the person's already responding to you getting up, and then we look away. So then the person looks all like, what's he looking at? And we move in and
mm.
bomb. And that's the first classic true kata, as they call it.
Hmm. So in the system, I guess one of the things I also want to know about is like what are the things you feel like make it unique that really have it stand out from other styles that come from the same period in time? Like maybe these are principal things, or even if sometimes there's just some techniques that are so cool or so useful, you know? I mean, that you're like, hey, this
Well,
technique kind of made it for me.
yeah, yeah. We have a striking technique which is very that's very unique in itself. It's a free strike technique.
Hmm.
Um, and I can't really go into too much detail with
Yeah,
it
of
because it's a
course.
lot higher. But you see, what people don't realize about Koryu is, for example, Kiraku-ryu, they have techniques against Tenjin Shinyo Ryu techniques,
Yes, 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 yes.
counters.
Like
Um,
specific style on style advice and tactics.
exactly, exactly.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And what I particularly like about Tenjin Shinyo, and I can't really say too much about other systems. A,
Hmm.
because I'm not allowed to, and B, I haven't got that much knowledge to really express that way. But
Yeah.
what I like about Tenjin is that it builds upon, I call it kata of progression. So you learn a technique or you learn a kata, and the next level up, you add something to that kata.
Uh,
So it builds upon.
it's
So
almost
you
like an
have a
interchangeable parts type of thing where you can
Well,
kind
it's
of
like Lego, right? You have
yeah,
your
yeah.
base level, and then you build upon, and that's what I really like. Whereas when I used to do karate, you got taught a kata, then you got taught another kata,
Yes.
and you're like, well, what's the difference between that one and that one? And
They're
half the
almost
time
like
you wasn't taught.
separate fighting styles within the style. Like you're like, oh, like I do Kyokushin, but I'm a Sanshin guy. I just let you hit me. Or no, I do the Tsuki kata and I'm punching everybody. Like you
Hmm.
have it's like almost like a dialect of the
Hmm.
style.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That,
and I actually think that. I think, going back to the Yoshinru school, so the founder of that, Akiyama, was a pediatrician, and he
mm,
went to China and came back with free techniques. And I personally believe that they were like free um, katas, like like you doing in solo katas.
yep.
And he also was brought back 28 methods of life as well. And I
Uh,
do feel that there's more to that than what a lot of people talk about.
interesting.
So then he then put that situation, those katas, in a Japanese way. So, for example, when we sit on our knees, no one else does that.
Hmm.
Chinese sit in seats, you
Yes.
know. Um, other people in India, they will squat down, for example.
And also like in other castles, right? Like the Japanese castles had some unique things about like the kneeling, that wasn't so much the same with other cultures.
Well, and it also depended on upon rank, I think, as well, on how you could sit and everything else. So it's I think that's the main thing that I really like about it is that I can then build upon my foundation. So even when you get to the highest level, you can still see the beginning. And in fact, that's what's taught. So it's 124 kata or techniques of
Mm.
infinite change. But you go back because by the time you've done the 124, you've learned other things. So you go back to the
Yeah.
basics.
So
And
it's sort of
I
like a
love that.
cyclical type of approach.
Absolutely.
Uh, that's
Absolutely.
very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes
And it's
to
what
its influence on judo, Tenjin Shinyo Ryu's influence on judo, the biggest place we see it, if and please correct me if I'm wrong, is in the Kime no kata, right?
yeah.
That those techniques were a lot of them were taken directly from it. Do you think that there's anything either related directly to Kime no kata or just in general that judoka would benefit like from cross studying in Tenjin Shinyo-ryu? I mean, I think this is sort of the idea behind some of your webinars, but I'd like to hear what you think.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm doing a seminar in the UK exactly that. So I'm demonstrating the origins of certain kata of Kime no kata with the principles and the origin katas of Tenjin Shinyo.
Oh wow.
And some of them wouldn't actually automatically say, "Oh, that's that," unless you know them,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So,
I get
like for
exactly what you're saying.
we have a technique that's a high level technique, and the same principle and kind of entry is done in a kneeling style in Kime no Kato of Kodokan, but in Tenjin we do it stand up. But the
Mhm.
principle and the entry is more or less the same. So yeah, I'm doing that for the British Judo Association um, in June, end of June. But there's lots, Osotogari, for example. Um, you actually you kick into the gastrocnemius muscle. You don't
Mm,
just reap it.
yeah.
There's and that's just one. There's other ways and angles that you do that same technique.
Huh, yeah.
Um, so that's a prime example. Um, I've got
That's
a
very
I'm
cool too for
probably
like a combative's perspective, right? Like if you want to take something like Osotogari and then, say, hey, you're a police officer or military, this is how you use the back heel of your boot to give them a calf spasm and they're not going to go anywhere afterwards.
and trust me, my father's done that in the past, and yeah, you drop,
Yeah,
so you're not readily available to fight back, put it that way.
that's
And
very
and
cool.
there and what you see, which is quite interesting, is like you see combat judo or combat jujitsu from the old war techniques, but they still grip the leg and don't kick it.
Yeah. Like they mix what a lot of people do is they take grappling and striking and they mix them and it's kind of like an oil and like water type thing where you're shaking it up and shaking it up but it never really goes together. But what you're describing is a different thing entirely, like what you talked about with the chokes, right? Is like we're
Mhm.
getting in a choking position, but then we're gonna execute the choke as a strike. Or, we're
Yeah,
coming in for Osotogari and instead of reaping the leg, it's a kick that has the same effect as reaping the leg, but it also strikes a vital point and disables the calf muscle. So that's really
absolutely.
cool. That's like another it's another level of integration, right? Though you don't see that very much.
And also we have a set which is purely Tenjin Shinryu, so it's not Shino Shinryu or Yoshinryu, which calls it's called Nageste, and it literally means to dump down.
Mm,
And when you reap the leg, as I say, you strike into the leg, but you follow through because it's supposed to be against multiple opponents. So Izo Matemon and a student of his, so the story goes, fought 100 people for a village. They were sort of kept a bit like the Seven Samurai. So this is probably where the basis of a lot of these samurai stories come from. These ruffians, bandits would actually come along and they would rob from the village. and his Omote, and one of his students stayed behind and fought these people. This is where he found that the importance of striking um, against multiple opponents. So that Osotogari, he then saw that as being a strike.
Mm.
And as you do it, you distance yourself from the opponent. Um, I've been given permission by my father to perhaps do another webinar regarding this whole sort of um, Kodokan Judo and Tenjin Shinyo Ryu connection sort of thing. So that might be on the cards.
That would be fantastic. I think, and this is just my own personal take because, I think that by studying the context around a particular art, you can gain so much understanding and even sometimes correct things that have been kind of missed historically, right? So this is the kind of stuff I think that, modern Aikidoka or Judoka, even people who do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will really benefit from looking back a little bit at some of these old traditions and getting an understanding of the principles. And also there's technical details that are there because of the age of the lineage. Like people had so much time over these generations to hone and think about things that the level of ingenuity that's there is beyond what you necessarily would be able to come up with without having studied it previously. I mean, I remember when I first was studying Tai Chi, and I was just looking at the brush knee movement, and I'm like, how does this movement manage to, on the one side, open the person's, lung and then strike them on it, and at the same time, it's tonifying for my own. So it's like you have somehow these guys were so smart that they wrapped up, the health, the healing aspect, self-healing, hurting the other person, and all of this into one move, and it's perfectly. I was like, this is insane. So I think that sometimes we
I
think.
think you have to be insane. When I sorry interrupting, but
No, go
when I
ahead.
was at college, I would have physiology lectures, and I would say to the lecturer, "So if you did this and this, would this happen?" And she'd go to me, "You're talking about killing people again, aren't you?" I'm like, "Not necessarily killing." I think you have to look outside the box, and being a practitioner of both systems is very advantageous. And but you have to, I certain people when they take things forward, they they are bordering, I think, on the side of craziness.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could be in that one, I think. Because there's
I mean, it's
often
better than being
things.
boring, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Thank you, James.
I mean, come on. I think we're on the same page here.
I'll say to my wife, at least I'm not boring. I'm crazy, but I'm not boring.
As long as you don't tell her it was on my advice.
Oh, definitely. Unfortunately, I've taught her some techniques as well, which is not a good idea. So, and this is a thing, again, going back, there's a lot of these old teachers were also like doctors as well. So
Yeah.
whether it was in Western medicine, and like I said in the presentation,
Martial arts has
as
never paid well, so they had to do something.
and these people often go to that next level,
Yes.
a bit like Renaissance Italy, Leonardo da
Yes.
Vinci.
Yes, no, 100%.
He wanted to study the ins and outs of, because autopsy actually means to study the inner you, the inner
Huh.
person.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
and I've watched a lot of dissections and stuff, and you do, if the person who's lecturing you as well, if they're good and they have that concept, it opens your mind massively, and you
Yeah.
look at things in different ways. Um, so yeah, you and I think Izzo is said that Izzo Matamon was also a doctor and done dissections and different things. I'm
It
not too
makes
sure.
sense. I
It kind
mean,
of makes sense, yeah.
I really like what you said about the Renaissance thing because this is sort of an idea that's been cooking across probably about 7 or 8 episodes of this podcast, which is kind of that there's these other dimensions to martial arts that obviously there's self-defense, there's the combatives, there's dueling, you got to fight another guy who's trained. Um, and then there's healing, right? Like healing yourself. There's health building aspects to martial arts, and then there's also how to heal other people. Hopefully, not people you hurt. Hopefully, you're not going
No.
around hurting people and needing to fix what you did, but it happens.
Well,
And then
yeah.
I think even there's room for study of like, potentially another art, like painting, calligraphy, pottery, poetry, and then obviously the spiritual dimension, right? Like meditation practice, but that without kind of all these elements that you're kind of missing something that martial arts, you won't become a complete martial artist without sort of incorporating a good spread of those.
Well, so the prime example of that, of what you've just said about um, shodo, so calligraphy, the flower arranging, people don't quite understand if they're doing combative sports, they don't quite get that mentality of if you commit yourself, that could be it.
Yes.
So, and that's where the sporting aspect has taken that mental aspect out.
Yes, it
So,
actually takes away from it. It can make it hard for you to develop that part, and especially if you're good at the sporting aspect, it can reinforce the ego in a way that makes it almost impossible.
absolutely, and I've this is one of the things that the Kimi no kata used to be called Shinken Shobu no kata,
Mm.
and then that drives a different mental because basically Shinken means live blade or live weapon, if you
Killing
like.
energy.
Shobu, win or lose. So you got a different mindset, and then they put
Yeah.
to it to this, Kimi no kata because it's swallowed in society more easier. But
I was
we
showing,
in Tenjin, go
yeah,
on.
go on, please.
No, I was going to say in Tenjin Shinyo, what what Izo always said was that treat the wooden sword like the live sword,
Yes.
and then you get this mushin eventually. So
Yeah,
you're not perplexed by that live blade or the shooting going around and
yeah, the real
whatever.
scenario when the energy is real.
Mm.
Yeah, like I was showing some of my students, my jujitsu students, some Aikido movements, and they were really just not grabbing with any intent. And one of the things I was saying was like, one of the things you have to realize is that this is something where we're both martial artists. And if I had a knife, I actually had a knife. So I took out a knife and I said, if I have this knife, right, and it's a live blade, and how are you going to grab my hand if I'm going to try to stab you? And they grab my hand really hard. And then I put the knife away and I say, hey, okay, remember, think about what I could do with my hand, right? I could break a brick, I can gouge your eye out. So if you don't control my hand, even just my hand, like I'm going to hurt you with this hand, potentially permanently. So when we're
Mm.
doing these kata, right, we have to grab in that context. And I think this is such a good point that you're making there, that this, for me at least, this makes it come alive and become an actual practice versus just sort of like cosplay.
Yeah, absolutely. Cosplay. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Nothing like a good
I
LARP.
well, this is why we wear hakama. Um, so it's kind of yeah. I describe that to my students as the monkey brain.
Yeah,
So in India, to catch a monkey, what they do is they put a fruit in a box with a small hole. So it's small enough to get the monkey can get his hand in there, but then once he's got the fruit, he can't take it out.
because he won't let go of the fruit.
And because he's a monkey, he doesn't think about letting go, as you say. So, this is one of the things that a lot of people, when they look at traditional martial arts, whether it's Aikido, Judo, and other old stuff, oh, well, if you do that, I can do that. Yeah, that's true. But if you're entered the monkey brain, all you've got is the intention of gripping that person. And I'm trying to then disrupt that. And
Yes.
we have a direct teaching with that, which I won't go into now. But it's and that is yeah, that's basically it. If you can get people to understand the
Yeah.
monkey brain, you
Yeah, that
know,
makes perfect sense. Man,
yeah,
well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I just want to thank you again for doing this. I
you're
learned a
very welcome.
lot. Um, and you've been doing a number of incredible webinars. I'll make sure to put a link down in the video description so people who want to check those things out, they can. Your organization is
Thank you.
called Tenrikai. What?
Tenyokai.
Tenyokai.
Yeah, so this
Tenyokai.
the Tenyokai International, and it's my father's the head of it. So this is why earlier on I said that my father gave me the heads up
Yes.
or the go ahead because it's ranking. So I have to get his.
Permission.
He pulls the reins in sometimes. Lee, you're getting too anxious here. You want to get out there, and I'm like, yeah, I want to get out there, but
Sometimes it's
yeah,
nice to
we
have someone to blame.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if it goes wrong, Lee, I told you not to do these webinars. But my ambition is to try and get people to understand, as you say, like with Kodokan Judo, what where the origins are and where they come from, and make them think a little bit. And same with
Yeah.
Shiba Sensei. He also did Tenjin Shinyo Ryu. A lot of
Yes.
his spiritual teachings actually are reflected in the Tenjin Shinyo Ryu
Huh.
spiritual teachings as well.
Well, that's
So
fascinating.
yeah, I've to put an end to it. Basically, I often say that with judo, they say that Kano took the dangerous techniques out. I don't think he did because he still left all the strangles and stuff in. What
Yeah.
he did do is he either didn't know or he left the spiritual techniques out.
Hmm.
And Washiba
Kind of
Sensei done the
secularized it.
opposite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, fascinating. Well, thanks again. This was phenomenal. We'll have to have you back for another one.
Yeah, it'll be a pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Lee.